Curious George goes to the tailor shop. "George," said the man with the yellow hat, "I'm going to the tailor shop to get my suit fixed. Why don't you come along?" George and his friend got into their little blue car and drove off. Two tailors were behind the counter. A dressmaker was working at the sewing machine. "I'd like to get my suit fitted," said the man with the yellow hat. "Certainly," said one of the tailors. "Come with me and I'll fit it for you." "George," said the man, "you can look around, but don't get into trouble." Then he followed the tailor into a fitting room. George looked around. A woman came out of a dressing room wearing a long dress. "How much shall we shorten it, Mrs. Hale?" asked the other tailor. "Not too short," she said. The tailor took a funny-looking gadget, squeezed a little rubber ball, and out came white powder. It made little marks on the dress. The lady kept turning as the tailor squeezed the ball. Finally, there was a thin white line all around the dress. Mrs. Hale went back to the dressing room to change. George was watching the tailor. Soon, Mrs. Hale came out of the dressing room, and the tailor put her dress on the dummy. "Remember," she said, "not too short. I'll be back in 1 hour." And she left. "I have to get some more thread," said the tailor. "I'll be back in a minute." George was looking at Mrs. Hale's dress. Could he be a tailor, too? George was curious. He picked up the gadget and went to work. George's marks were even thicker than the tailor's, and not just in a straight line, but all over the place. There, it was all done. When the tailor came back, he took the dress off the dummy and handed it to the dressmaker. "Please cut and hem this dress right away," he said. "Mrs. Hale must have it in 1 hour." George watched the dressmaker cut the dress and follow his markings. When Mrs. Hale came back, the tailor gave her the dress to try on. Suddenly, there was a scream from the dressing room, and Mrs. Hale rushed out. "My dress," she cried. "It's ruined. Look at it." "Who changed the hemline?" shouted the tailor. George was scared. Mrs. Hale kept looking in the mirror. "What am I going to wear to the party tonight?" she cried. Then she looked at herself again. "Wait a minute. Maybe I do like it the way it is," she said. "It's rather fashionable. Don't you agree?" "Why, yes, Mrs. Hale," said the tailor. "It's very becoming." And he smiled. Mrs. Hale smiled, too. Then she paid the tailor and left. "For goodness sake, what happened?" asked the tailor. "I just followed the thicker marks," said the dressmaker. "It must have been that monkey." "So there you are," said the tailor. "I should be angry with you, but we were lucky that Mrs. Hale liked what you did." Just then, the man with the yellow hat came over. "I hope you didn't get into any trouble, George."
"He sure didn't," said the tailor. "With a few sewing lessons, George could be my helper anytime."
They waved goodbye and drove back home in their little blue car.